Everyone knows modern bodybuilders look absolutely insane, but old school strongmen, they did things that shouldn't even be humanly possible. Pulling cars with their teeth, snapping chains with their bare hands, and here's the crazy part, they weren't even doing the training you might think. No high-tech gyms, no anabolic science, just raw, secret methods that most lifters today have completely forgotten. Let's break down the secret science that made them freakishly strong. But before we dive in, here's the question that keeps strength historians arguing. Were these men just genetic freaks, or did they tap into a style of training we basically abandoned? Stick with me, because by the end, you'll see how their methods can actually boost your strength today without spending hours in the gym. First big secret, isometric. Strongmen like Alexander Zass, known as the Iron Samson, built strength not by endless reps, but by straining against immovable objects, pulling on chains, pushing against iron bars, holding static positions until their body shook. Modern science shows isometrics activate over 95% of your muscle fibers, more than almost any other method. That's why Samson could literally tear steel apart. It wasn't magic, it was neuromuscular overload, teaching the nervous system to recruit maximum force. And here's where it gets wild. This wasn't just about muscle, it was about tendon strength, the very thing most lifters today completely ignore. See, tendons are like the transmission in your car. You can rev the engine all day, your muscles, but if the transmission is weak, the power never gets to the wheels. Old school strongmen hammered their tendons through chain isometrics, bending nails, and lifting odd objects. Modern studies back this. Tendons adapt slower than muscle, but once they're reinforced, your lifts skyrocket. That's why Samson's grip could hold back galloping horses, literally. Second secret, odd objects. Instead of perfect barbells and machines, strongmen lifted sandbags, anvils, and barrels of water. But why? Because these objects shift, wobble, and fight back. This forces your stabilizers to fire like crazy. It's the original functional training decades before it even became a buzzword. This explains why a 180-pound strongman from 1920 could outgrip modern gym rats twice his size. Their strength wasn't just for show, it was actually chaos tested. And wait until you hear their final secret. It wasn't even physical training. Strongmen weren't just lifters, they were performers. They trained their mind as much as their muscles. Visualization, breath control, and pain tolerance were part of their practice. Samson believed that strength was 50% mental focus. Modern sports psych agrees. Mental rehearsal boosts performance. So when you see a man holding back two horses, you're looking at someone who trained his nervous system to believe it was possible before his muscles ever tried. So here's the secret science boiled down. 1, over 95% muscle fiber activation from isometrics. 2, tendon and connective tissue training for unstoppable transfer of force. 3, chaos-tested odd object lifting to bulletproof stabilizers. And 4, mental conditioning as the amplifier. That's why these guys were legendary. They weren't chasing aesthetics, they were chasing unreal freak show strength. Now, if you want to taste even a fraction of what these men did, start simple. Grab a heavy-duty chain or an isometric training strap, stuff you can find right on Amazon for cheap. You don't need a full gym. Just 10 minutes of chain pulls or isometric holds can fire up your nervous system in ways traditional reps never will. I'll drop a link below to the exact type of gear I recommend if you want to experiment with the old school method yourself. So were old school strongmen just circus freaks? Or were they onto something science is finally catching up to? What if two legends, one who snapped chains for fun and one who re-engineered modern training, pointed to the same strength secret? Today we're putting Alexander Zass's chain pull isometrics up against Bruce Lee's 8-position isometric routine to find out which method gives you more strength in less time. Spoiler alert, the answer is not what you think. Most people think lift more weight, get more strength. Reality? You can get brutally strong without moving at all. Zass built tendon power yanking on immovable chains. Bruce locked in fixed positions and drove maximal force for seconds at a time. We'll judge both by time, equipment, carryover to the sport, injury risk, and how fast you feel results. And by the way, you'll probably want to stick to the end because there's going to be a 10-minute field test that you can run this week. Zass, early 1900s strongman, made a career bending bars and breaking chains. He swore by chain isometrics and odd angle pulling to harden tendons and link the whole body into one piece. Bruce Lee chased efficiency, short, all-out overcoming isometrics at specific joint angles, often with racks or devices held for 6 to 12 seconds. Same principle, different flavors. Zass's method, pull or push against chains, straps, or door frames, by the way, it wasn't just chains, from chest high, overhead, and split stance angles, 6 to 10 seconds of max intent, 3 to 5 efforts per angle, were very effective. Bruce Lee, borrowing from Bob Hoffman's 8 positions, or Bob Hoffman's Super 8 workout program, focused on fixed bar holds at targeted joint angles: press, row, pull, squat, calf raises, movements we all know in modern lifting, 6 to 12 seconds each, usually 2 to 3 efforts on average. Zass prioritized tendons and whole frame linkage, odd angles, crushing grip, global brace. Bruce's approach prioritized neural drive and joint angle specificity, perfect for sticking points and sport exact force. Here's our head-to-head scorecard. This is gonna be a lot of fun. Which method is gonna win for you? Let's break it down. Equipment. We have dumbbell, chain, and bar. Zass focused on chains, straps, or any fixed object. Bruce focused on rack pins or the Exergenie. Verdict, it's a tie. Time cost, this is overcoming isometrics, and it took about the same time. It took Zass about 10 to 15 minutes, Bruce about 10 to 15 minutes. Verdict, it's a tie. Carryover, does it carry over to what they are using the training for? Zass used it for odd angle strength and grip. Bruce used it for sticking point power. The verdict, it really depends on what you're training for. Number 4, for injury risk, interestingly enough, both were low. With Zass, you had to watch the levers, but with Bruce, it was standardized. So we're gonna have to give the edge to Bruce. Reason being is that we simply use the protocol for any normal movement: squat, shoulder press, row, bracing the core, keeping the back flat, and simply apply it to its overcoming isometric equivalent, and that's gonna be a lot easier to transition to versus Zass's odd angle pulls, even though, again, the risk of injuring yourself was also fairly low. Then there's the fun factor. Zass has primal chain yanks, and Bruce has crisp pin drives. And as fun as working on an iso chain is, I gotta give it to Zass. Like, nothing feels more freaking primal than just pulling with everything you got on a heavy metal chain. Just makes you look like a complete badass. So the winner, you gotta be kidding me, it's a tie. I know. I also hate hearing it depends, but it really does depend on what you're training for. If we want an example, we're not gonna have a swimmer benching 405. That's not optimal for him. And we're not gonna have a rock climber prepping for his next climb with his friends by doing a Tour de France. Does that make sense? Same concept here. You don't have to choose, actually. Zass toughens the cables that transmit force. Bruce teaches your nervous system to fire at the exact angles you need. Stack them together and you get the best of both: steel cables plus laser timing. Here's a 10-minute test so that you can feel the difference. You'll have Zass's chest-high chain pull, 3 sets of 10 seconds with 20-second rest in between. Bruce's first position shoulder press versus the pins, 3 sets of 8 to 10 seconds. Zass's split stance row, 3 sets of 10 seconds per side. Bruce's high row, 3 sets of 8 to 10 seconds. Then a calf finisher with a door frame drive of 4 sets of 10 seconds. My personal take: grapplers, strongmen, and manual laborers, go Zass heavy, 60-40. Lifters, stuck at a sticking point, strikers, and sprinters, go Bruce Lee heavy, 60-40. If you're completely new to isometrics, I would just recommend alternating days. Monday Zass, Wednesday Bruce Lee, Friday a mix of the two. Even though we're talking about two legends, it's still one principle: overcoming isometrics. Push harder than the world pushes back at you, even if nothing moves. The 10-minute field test PDF is linked below. Comment chains if you're team Zass, rack if you're team Bruce Lee, and tell us in the comments below what chains after 7 days. Rust flakes drift through a shaft of morning light as a pair of steel prison bars moan. Then, crack! Alexander Zass, prisoner number 765, steps through his own handiwork while 30 stunned guards scramble. You can almost feel the chain links vibrating in his grip. If 8 seconds of pure intent can split Soviet iron, imagine what it might do for your squat plateau. So don't blink, because by the end of this story, you'll have Zass's exact tendon-first routine and the modern research that says he wasn't just a circus trickster. Samson's legend starts in a World War I stockade. Night after night, he pressed, pulled, and twisted whatever metal he could reach, convinced that tendons, those silent cables under every big muscle, held the real key to escape level strength. Fast forward a century, and lab scans show that super maximal isometric holds, 8 to 12 seconds long, upregulate collagen synthesis and toughen connective tissue in as little as 4 weeks. Zass felt that in his bones long before he could spell biomechanics. So here's the deal. If your deadlift has been been stuck for months. Even as your biceps get bigger, then it isn't your muscles that are sandbagging you. It's the elastic hardware that anchors them. Tendons lag behind hypertrophy. That's why Samson's routine hammers them first. Grab a 5mm hardware store chain, clip 2 carabiners, and you've spent $8 on a portable dungeon gym. Ramp your pull for 2 to 3 seconds, slam maximum force for 6 to 8 seconds, then bleed off tension with a hiss of breath like a punctured tire. 3 sets per position. Zass cycled 16 different angles, chest openers, behind the back rows, hip drives, overhead locks, so no joint got the day off and no force leaked out of the chain. Here's where curiosity is gonna tighten even more. In about 90 seconds, I'm gonna walk you through 3 staple moves. But first, the programming secret nobody even believes. Samson kept sessions under 15 minutes and hit the full chain only twice a week. But why? The answer? Microfrequency without neural hangover. In modern terms, isometric force time equals gains minus cortisol, and comparison studies show these holds produce a lower stress to perceived exertion ratio than heavy eccentrics of the same intensity. Translation, you walked out amped, not fried. Picture this: Monday morning neural primer. 1 single 8-second chest expansion before you even sip coffee. Wednesday and Saturday become full chain days, 5 to 8 positions, 3 sets each. Everything else, dynamic lifts, hypertrophy work, fits around that skeleton because isometric time under tension is microscopic yet mighty. You don't need an extra hour. You need 1 ferocious breath hold pull where the room goes silent and your whole body tingles. Okay, countdown over. Let's see these 3 moves. First, the chest expansion. Chain behind you at mid-back height, palms out, elbows soft, then inflate the rib cage and imagine tearing the universe in half for 6 volcanic seconds. Second, the behind the back row. Chain draped low, reverse grip, shoulder blades crushing together as if pinching a coin. Third, the isometric squat drive. Chain under feet, handles at hip level, knees at 30 degrees, full body irradiation until your quads hum like guitar strings. Each rep should feel like you opened a pressure valve when you finally exhale. Still wondering how such tiny sessions can bend bars? Tendon fibers remodel under high strain, short duration loads, not marathon grinders. That's why Samson could pull horses in opposite directions on a Sunday and still walk into the ring Monday. And if 8 seconds can do that, what might it do for your next 3-plate bench? You ready to test it? I stitched the entire 16 angle routine in the description below as a PDF. Download it, tape it to your rack, and let me know in the comments which angle lit you up the most. Now next week, we're gonna pit Bruce Lee's isometric workout, borrowed from Bob Hoffman, against Alexander Zass's chain pulls to settle who really owned the isometric throne. Make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss that showdown. Remember, muscles show, but tendons go. Pull like a prisoner with nothing to lose. And this time, the only bars you're gonna be bending are the plates on your PR board.